You can't show value in a monthly rental deposit. You have to talk about value. You have to communicate it to them. You have to give them a reason to feel like you're on their side. And that's where an investor audit comes in. It plays a big part, but having a landlord or an investor communication plan where you have touch points with them consistently throughout the year is also part of this. But today I'm going to break down the investor audit for you. And when I started out, like I said, I made that decision and it wasn't sexy and it wasn't a business hack. It was just an intention that I'm going to communicate meaningfully with my clients. And of course, I had a background in marketing and communication. It was a strength of mine. And when I had no idea what I was doing while I had no idea what I was doing with property management, I certainly knew what I was doing when it came to communication and marketing strategies. I'd also had a PR business. Though I had very strong foundations for my business around those areas. And it wasn't something that I fluked, it was very intentional what I put together. Hey there, and welcome back to the Property Management Podcast. Thank you so much for having me in your ears. And today I'm going to talk about something that still makes me proud to this day. Over the last 15 years, the majority of my clients stayed with me. And some of them still call me, even after they've either sold their properties or they've moved on to one of the new agencies that we sold our properties to. Not because I was the cheapest and not because I had the fanciest software or because I was the most experienced property manager, because I certainly wasn't when I first started out managing a lot of their properties. I had no clue. Like I've said, I was a sports journalist. I had zero experience, but they stayed because I made a conscious decision early on that I was going to be their trusted advisor, not just the person who collects rent. Very early on, I was very conscious of giving them a client experience. I realized that old adage, what is it? People don't remember what you tell them, but they remember how you make them feel. And I wanted them to genuinely feel like I was on their side and I was their trusted advisor. So let me be real for a second. The property management industry right now has a trust problem, and it's not because property managers are bad at what they do. It's because landlords don't see what you do. They see the rent hit their bank account, they see a bill for your services, they see a list of maintenance when something breaks, but they don't see the dozens of little things that you handle that they never even need to know about. The tenant issues that you solve before it becomes a big crisis, the negotiation you did, the compliance that you stayed on top of. So when it's renewal time, or when their mate tells them about a bigger agency, or when they get a letter saying we can do it cheaper, they won't look to move because you have done the foundational work to set yourself up as their trusted advisor. You're not just collecting their rent. And this is where most property managers get stuck, and I see it everywhere. People thinking if I just work harder, if I do more, eventually they'll see my value. But that's backwards. You can't show value in a monthly rental deposit. You have to talk about value. You have to communicate it to them. You have to give them a reason to feel like you're on their side. And that's where an investor audit comes in. It plays a big part, but having a landlord or an investor communication plan where you have touch points with them consistently throughout the year is also part of this. But today I'm going to break down the investor audit for you. And when I started out, like I said, I made that decision and it wasn't sexy and it wasn't a business hack. It was just an intention that I'm going to communicate meaningfully with my clients. And of course, I had a background in marketing and communication. It was a strength of mine. And when I had no idea while I had no idea what I was doing with property management, I certainly knew what I was doing when it came to communication and marketing strategies. I'd also had a PR business. though I had very strong foundations for my business around those areas. And it wasn't something that I fluked. It was very intentional what I put together. It wasn't just random emails, it was real communication, thoughtful updates, random calls. Sorry, the calls were probably random. I did a Friday Five, I called it, where I would literally just call 5 owners just to check in, talk about the week, what was happening in their properties, what was happening in their lives, what's coming up, what the market was doing. It wasn't necessarily anything specifically to do with their property that there was a maintenance or a problem with their tenant. It was literally a check-in communication point. I also had a newsletter, which was real stuff from my life and business that might actually matter to them, not just listed, just sold. It was real, it was raw, it was talking about life as a busy working mum, talking about the local community that we were working in, what was going on with the economy, what was going on. And remember, I started my business straight after the 2011 floods. So I signed a lease on my office premises the end of January, a week after the floods in 2011 in Queensland hit. We also went through a GFC and, of course, COVID. So I've had my fair share of difficult real estate markets, but the important thing was that I kept that communication up despite whatever was going on. And of course, when there's uncertainty, that's when you really do need to step up your communication to the next level. But here's the important part. I treated them like business people with business interests, not like landlords with rentals. I didn't just manage their properties, I actually cared about whether their investment was working or not. And now I know that there are some, and I had to work this out as well, there are some investors who who are accidental investors, and they are just landlords with a rental property. And as long as they've got good tenants and the property is ticking over nicely, no major issues, they're very happy. They don't really care about achieving maximum rental return. They just want good tenants, nice families in their properties, and they're happy to keep the rent stable. So that's obviously a different communication plan. I'm talking about the large pool of investors that we've got in our rent rolls now who are treating property investing as part of their wealth creation journey. It does sound simple talking about maximizing their rental returns, but it's not what most people do. Most people do their job, and I did more than my job. I did what made sense for their business, for their wealth creation journey. And it really did make a difference. Like I said, many of them stayed, even throughout the roller coaster doors of property managers that I had. A lot of them stayed loyal to me, even when big agencies competed for them, even when property managers left and tried to steal them and poach them from me. Some did succeed. I didn't have a 100% strike rate there, of course. Even when the market got tough, because they didn't feel like a number in my business. They felt like someone actually gave a crap about whether they won or lost. And I want to be clear, this isn't about fake friendship or pretending you care. It's the opposite. It's about being so genuinely interested in their investment, their goals, and their success that your interest becomes obvious. It becomes real, and then they trust you. And the investor audit is one tool that makes this systematic. It's how you have those conversations intentionally at the right time and with structure. This episode is proudly supported by ALO. And if you've been listening to the show for a while, you've probably noticed what I've noticed. The property managers doing the most interesting work right now keep mentioning the same platform. And I saw it close up at the Harcourt Solutions study tour in Brisbane. The way teams talk about their day has changed. And if you want to hear it for yourself, ALO hosts after-hours intimate events at Mecca stores across Australia, where you can listen to property managers share their own story. So book a demo at alo.io, that's AILO.io, and ALO will send you a Mecca gift card to say thanks. So here's the honest version. An investor audit is just a structured conversation at the right time. And end of financial year, which is coming up if you're listening to this podcast in June 2026, end of financial year is perfect because it's when landlords are already thinking about money, already reviewing things, already have documentation pulled together. So you reach out, and it doesn't have to be fancy, just genuine. It might be just an email with a link to your calendar that you want to sit down and have an end of financial discussion with them, review their property, review their portfolio, make sure that they've got everything they need for tax time, and just do a proper check in on whether things are working the way you want them to. And it could be 30 minutes, it could be 60 minutes, and depending on how many properties are in your portfolio. But here's what you actually want to do during that call. First of all, you want to pull up the data. And if you use Cotality or whatever system you can pull data from, you want to grab an investor report on their property. In Cotality, they have a report called the investor report, and it looks at the actual numbers, rental yield, cash flow, equity in their property. And then you'll want to pull up the actual figures from your property management software and talk about what rent came in, what maintenance went out, what is their cash flow looking at. You're talking and looking at the data together. Then you want to talk about the property itself, not just here's what happened. Actually talk about the condition, the maintenance patterns, what's working, what didn't work, weaving in getting their aircon service, their pest control done. When was their last termite inspection done? And then maybe even having a conversation around budgeting for future maintenance as well, but helping them understand their asset. How long is it going to be before they need to replace their carpets, or when their appliances are all likely to go? And we all know appliances all seem to go at once. It's not just one at a time. They all seem to go, or ceiling fans, they all seem to go at the same time as well. So have a conversation around that sort of stuff. Let them know what to expect, especially if they're first time investors or they've got a brand new property. Talk to them about what that time frame is going to look like for them to need to start spending some money on maintenance. You also want to talk about the tenant, how long they've been there, are they solid, any red flags, are they maintaining the property, pull up some of your routine inspection reports, and get the investors to really understand the tenants paying their mortgage in a bit more of a personal way. And this also helps when if you do have problems when it comes time to vacating the tenant, if they've got a bit of an understanding of the tenant and who they are as a person. They're not just a tenant, but they're a real person. They're a mum and dad with 3 kids that they're sending off to school. They're working 2 jobs, whatever. It's going to make that whole vacate process a lot better. And then you also want to talk about obviously what's ahead. Is there a lot of equity in the property? Could they be using some of that for some maintenance? Could they be looking to buy another investment property? Are they interested in a sales appraisal? Looking at all those future planning things with them. And this is where you become a bit more of a strategic partner with them as well. And here's the crucial bit though. You do this together on a Zoom meeting or in person. You're not sending them a report to read. You're having a real conversation, because that's where the trust lives. That's where they feel like someone actually gets their investment, and that's where they realize you're thinking about their business the same way that they should be. And here's what happens when they walk away from that conversation. They feel seen. They feel like you actually understand their portfolio, their property. They're feeling like you're on their side, not just trying to upsell them or justify your fees. So if you want to know why my clients stayed, why they still call me, it's not because, like I said, I was perfect. I was the most experienced property manager. It's because I made them feel like their investment actually mattered to me, like I cared about it. And the investor audit is that feeling. It's systemized. The investor audit is that feeling, only systemized. Because here's what happens after that conversation. They don't see you in the same way. They don't think property manager collecting rent. They think person who understands my business, person who understands my property, person who cares about what my property is doing. And when that next agency calls with the cheaper fees, or when they're thinking about switching, they'll remember that conversation. They remember that you get it. And suddenly your fees don't feel unreasonable. They feel like an investment in someone who's actually looking out for them. Plus, and this is practical, you're differentiating yourself. Most property managers don't do this. Most don't have these conversations. Most are transactional, but you won't be. You'll be the one who actually talks to them about their investment, about their goals, about what matters. And that's retention. That's word of mouth. That's the foundation of a business that grows without constantly chasing new clients. And here's the other thing, when you do this, you actually know your clients better. You know which ones are solid, which ones might leave, which ones might expand. You can service them better. You can anticipate problems. You become better at your job because you're actually engaged with their businesses. So here's how you start. Pick a time. An end of financial year is perfect, but any quarterly check-ins work whenever makes sense for your calendar. Send an email to your clients, something genuine. I want to do a proper review of your portfolio, talk about how things are tracking, and make sure we're set up for success. That's not a sales pitch. It's just let's talk. Send the link to book into your calendar. So they've got the choice of days and times. And I would recommend having some spots open in your calendar for evenings between 6 and 8 p.m. I know it's probably not ideal, but remember, investors have got families. They're probably working full time as well. If you have a little bit of flexibility in there, or even some early morning ones, pull your data before your call. Grab your report from Cotality, grab all the reporting from your property management software, or even show them around in your software as well. Or if you've got an investor portal, jump on and give them a demo of how they can access all the information in their investor portal, what's at their fingertips whenever they need it. Have the conversation, walk through it step by step. Ask real questions and then listen to any concerns. It's a great time for them to bring up any concerns that they're having with your property manager or with your business. And at the end, ask, is there anything, like I said, that they want to talk about? Anything worrying them? Anything they want us to do differently? Give them space to actually say what really matters to them, because this is also great for your learning and education as well. It helps you to make some improvements that are really valuable to your clients as well. Follow them up after you've done the audit. Send them a summary and some notes from the call, what you talked about, what you're going to do, any action steps they're going to do and that you're going to do, because they need to know that you took that seriously as well. And then that's it. That's the framework. It's not complicated, but it's intentional. And it's a difference between managing properties and being a trusted advisor. So I don't know where you're at with your business right now. Maybe you're thriving. Maybe you're struggling with retention. Maybe you're exhausted from constantly chasing new clients. But if you're willing to shift from what can I do for them to how can I actually be their partner in this investment, everything changes. The investor audit is one tool, but it's the tool that says to your landlords or your clients, I see you, I see your investment, I'm thinking about it, and I'm in your corner. And people don't leave people they trust. They don't leave people who make them feel that way. So this end of financial year, if you want to try this, reach out to your portfolio, have these conversations and see what happens. I'll think you'll be very surprised and your clients will be very impressed. Thanks for tuning in. Can I ask you a quick favor before you leave this episode? Now, we all know how important reviews are for businesses these days, and mine is no different. If you could spare just a minute to follow, rate, and review this podcast, it would mean a lot to me. In fact, what would get me super excited is if you share this podcast with someone in the industry who you think might need to hear some of the episodes right now. And if you'd like to find out more about working with me or any of the products I have to help you start, grow, or scale your property management business, head to my website, thatpropertymum.com.au, or check out the links in the show notes.